Forgotten Face. Past, Now, Read presents another entry in our anthology of stories that need to be told. Forgotten Face. If you have a story that needs to be told, email it to stories@pastnowread.com. If you like this story, stay tuned each Sunday afternoon for the next episode. Now, Forgotten Face. Enjoy. The sight. The thunder made the glass tremble, and so did I. I was half listening to a client on the phone, half watching rain river down the cafe windows when the door opened and a ghost walked in. She shook water from a coat the color of wet stone, tucked a curl behind her ear, and looked past me like I was another chair. My heart forgot its job. 10 years vanished in one blink. I'd trained myself not to look for her, not in airports, not in crowds, not in dreams. She'd been the brilliant foreign student who sat beside me in a lecture hall and took notes in 2 languages, then joined the agency before our caps were even dry. Then there was a field assignment overseas, a message that said, "Trust God." I am safe, and a silence that stretched into a decade. You can learn to live with a missing person. You just can't learn how to breathe when they're standing 10 feet away. The storm pushed everyone closer, tables filled, shoulders brushed, conversations wove together like threads. She ordered tea, the same way she used to, milk last, a tiny pause as if measuring grace. The barista asked her name. She gave one I didn't recognize, syllables that felt like a paper screen between us. She chose a corner table. I lingered by the napkins too long, then too obviously, then not at all. My reflection in the window looked like a man about to make a mistake. I told myself I wouldn't approach. Then I did. Up close, the resemblance refused to be coincidence. The crescent scar near her brow, the way she warmed her hands on the cup before lifting it, the thoughtful check of exits, habit, not fear. "Do we know each other?" I asked, voice steady enough to pass for normal. She tilted her head, examining me with polite curiosity, like a museum visitor reading the wrong plaque. "I'm sorry," she said gently, the accent softened by years but still there, like a melody remembered from childhood. "I think you're mistaken." The floor felt unsteady, as if the building were a ship. "You remind me of someone," I managed. "From a long time ago." She offered a sympathetic smile, kind, distant, impossible. "I hope it's a good memory," she said, then lifted her tea. Steam framed her face like a small weather system. I could have let it end there. I should have. The part of me that learned perimeter checks and contingency plans murmured, "Walk away." The part of me that once believed God answered small prayers with big miracles said, "Stay." I sat at the next table and did neither. I watched. I measured. I took inventory the way I do on security jobs. Posture relaxed but ready, gaze that never quite settles, the almost invisible nod she gave when 2 men in suits entered and took a table with a clear line to the door. If she wasn't who I remembered, she was someone very much like her. When the rain softened to a hush, she stood. The coat was back on, the tea gone, the distance between us suddenly a lifetime again. She brushed past me with a floral citrus note I hadn't smelled in 10 years, a scent that opened a drawer of memories I'd nailed shut. And as she reached the door, as the bell chimed and the streetlight painted silver on her hair, she did the one thing that turned doubt into certainty. She hummed 3 bars of an old Russian hymn, her grandmother's favorite, the one she'd taught me under breath in a chapel half a world away, soft enough that only someone who once leaned in close would hear it. The door closed, the rain swallowed her. My hands shook over a cup gone cold, and all I could think was, if she's alive, then the story I told myself for 10 years was a lie. And if the story was a lie, what truth was dangerous enough to bury us both? The search? I didn't sleep that night. Her face, her voice, the hymn. It all looped in my head like an unsolved cipher. At 3 a.m. I was still in my home office, blue light from the monitor painting the walls, sifting through every possible record I could find. The name she'd given the barista came up empty before 6 years ago. No school records, no tax filings, no medical licenses, no credit history, like she'd walked out of the ocean fully formed. I'd seen it before. Manufactured identities, built by people with the budget and authority to make inconvenient truths vanish. By morning, I had a plan and a contact. Mason had been my handler once, before I traded the adrenaline of fieldwork for the quiet predictability of corporate security consulting. I hadn't called him in years, but when his gravel voice answered, I got straight to the point. "I saw someone yesterday," I said. "Someone who shouldn't exist." He was silent long enough for me to hear the scrape of a chair. "If that's who I think you mean," he said finally, "walk away." The agency didn't lose her. They buried her. There's a difference. What kind of difference? The kind where they send flowers to your funeral and never admit they knew you. He hung up. No goodbye. I should have listened. Instead, I dug deeper. I pulled up a map of the neighborhood where I'd seen her, marking every likely route she could take from the cafe. The trail was cold until I spotted her again 2 days later, stepping through the heavy wooden doors of a small church tucked between 2 apartment buildings. The inside was warm with candlelight, the air thick with beeswax and the faintest trace of incense. I stayed in the back row, half hidden by a pillar. She moved to the front, crossed herself in the orthodox way, and lit a candle before an icon. The moment her lips began to move, I knew she was praying in Russian, soft, fluid, intimate, like when she used to whisper grace before a meal, even in our crowded college cafeteria. When the priest stepped away, she turned slightly. Our eyes locked across the dim sanctuary. My name, my real one, the one almost no one uses anymore, passed her lips, a whisper that cut through the candle smoke. Then she looked away, as if we were strangers again. I followed her outside into the winter sun. She walked quickly, her boots clicking against the wet pavement. I called out. She didn't stop, didn't even glance back. By the time I reached the corner, she was gone. Back at my desk that night, the warning from Mason replayed in my mind. They buried her. But if that was true, why could she still speak my name like a prayer? The rain began again, tapping against the glass. I stared at the city lights until they blurred, certain of only one thing. Either she was caught in something that still owned her, or I was about to step into it myself. The truth. 2 more days passed before I saw her again. It wasn't by chance. I waited outside the church, leaning against a lamppost in the brittle winter air, until the service ended and she stepped out. No coat this time, just a grey sweater and a scarf pulled tight around her neck. She noticed me instantly and stopped, her breath a faint cloud between us. "We need to talk," I said. Her eyes scanned the street, reading every angle the way we used to check a room for threats. "Not here," she murmured, then walked past me toward the park. We found a bench half hidden by bare trees, their branches like black veins against the pale sky. She sat without looking at me, hands folded in her lap. "You shouldn't be following me. You whispered my name." "That was a mistake." "No," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. "It was the truth breaking through whatever game you're playing." She closed her eyes for a moment, then turned to me. "Fine, yes. I am who you think I am, and I'm not." I waited. When I left, it wasn't for the agency, it was because of them. My assignment was cover for something much bigger. I spent 10 years under names I didn't choose, in places I didn't belong, doing work I can't tell you about. and the only way to survive was to erase myself, including you. She looked away, as if saying my name again might undo her. If anyone knew I'd broken cover, they wouldn't just come for me, they'd come for you too. That's why you pretended not to know me. That's why I had to, she said. I couldn't risk it, not until I was sure the net was off me. I'm almost there, almost free. The weight of 10 years pressed between us, years of wondering if she'd been captured, killed, or simply disappeared. What kept you alive? I asked. Her lips curved faintly. Faith. Prayer. I had nothing else. I used to light a candle and pray the same prayer every night. That if God let me live, I'd see you again, even if I couldn't tell you why. A silence passed, heavy but not empty. Then she slipped a small object from her coat pocket, a flash drive, black and unmarked. She pressed it into my palm. If you open this, you'll know everything, but once you do, you can't go back. They'll know you have it, and they'll come. Why give it to me? Because I trust you to make the right choice, she said, and because I can't keep it anymore. I looked down at the drive, feeling its weight out of proportion to its size. She rose from the bench, her eyes on the horizon. I have to go. Don't follow me this time. I stood, but before I could speak, she was already walking away, her figure dissolving into the slow-falling snow. In my hand, the drive felt like a fuse waiting for a spark. The choice. That night, I set the flash drive on my desk and just stared at it. A plain, black thing, so small it could be lost in a pocket, so heavy it seemed to tilt the air in the room. I poured coffee, sat back, and tried to imagine what might be on it. Names, missions, evidence that could unravel governments? Or maybe it was nothing, just a final test to see if I could be trusted. By midnight, I was pacing. My hand kept drifting toward the drive, like it had its own gravity. Curiosity is a dangerous thing. In the field, it can save you or kill you, and you never know which until it's too late. At 1 a.m, I shut off the lamp and went to bed. The drive stayed where it was, a black square of temptation in the dark. The next morning, I took it to my pastor. We sat in his office, the blinds drawn against the glare. I told him everything, except her real name. He listened without interrupting, his hands folded like he was holding my words together. When God keeps something hidden from you, he said at last, it's either because you're not ready to bear it, or because he's protecting you from it entirely. So you're saying I shouldn't look? I'm saying the truth has a cost, he replied. Sometimes the cost isn't worth paying. I left the church lighter, but not certain. All day, I carried the drive in my pocket, feeling its edges through the fabric. At times, I thought about smashing it. At others, I imagined plugging it in just long enough to see a single file name. On the third day, the decision was made for me. I was back at the cafe, rain misting the glass, when she walked in, no coat this time, hair loose over her shoulders. She spotted me instantly and smiled, open, real, like it had been a lifetime since we'd last seen each other instead of a week. You didn't open it, she said, sliding into the seat across from me. No, I said, I figured if it mattered that much to you, it should stay closed. Her shoulders eased, the tension in her posture dissolving like frost in sunlight. Then I can finally tell you, without putting you in danger, that I'm free. The people I worked for, they've moved on. I'm no one to them now. I placed the drive on the table. She took it, slipped it into her bag, and reached for my hand. Her fingers were warm, steady. Outside, the rain turned heavier, drumming the awning. We sat there for a long time, speaking little, letting the years between us settle into something quieter. less jagged. Sometimes I realized the miracle isn't in uncovering the truth, it's in trusting enough to leave it buried. And sometimes faith is not about the answers you find, but the person you find them with. We left the cafe together, stepping into the rain hand in hand. Whatever lay ahead, we would walk into it side by side. You have been listening to Forgotten Face, produced and adapted for audio narration by PastNowRead. Stories that need to be told. If you have a story that needs to be told, email it to stories@pastnowread.com. Please subscribe, like, and hit that bell for future updates. If you liked this story, stay tuned for the next episode each Sunday afternoon. Follow for more. If you like our stories, please tag with someone who may also like PastNowRead, stories that need to be told. It would really help our channel. Thank you. All content and images are copyrighted by Phone House LLC, 2025, all rights reserved.